Ready? Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. Let's get today's meeting started with an invocation from Pastor Shannon Scott from Grace Baptist Church.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate that. And thank you for inviting me. And thank you for recognizing God in this meeting. I appreciate that also. Let's pray. Father God, we thank you so much for the blessings and for your constant care. We don't understand all the things that have happened in our lives over the last year or so, but we have not lost hope. We pray that you'd help us to get back to some normalcy. Help us in all things that we do. Please give the leaders of our nation, our state, our county, but especially the leaders of our city, the wisdom and the discernment to make the decisions that they need to make that are good for all of us. Be with this meeting so that every meeting that's held in this chamber, Lord, would have unity and grace. I pray that as the issues are discussed of importance to our lives, Lord, that you would please guide them. Give us the welfare and the safety of our city. Lord, we ask you to protect those who protect us, our police and our firemen. And Lord, we pray that you would continue to bless our city for thy name's sake. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much, Pastor. And if you'll all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I would like to call the meeting to order. Individuals wishing to address the City Council are requested to complete a speaker card and deliver the card to the City Clerk staff prior to the item being heard by the City Council. Please observe a 3-minute limit for communications, and when called upon to speak, we request that you state your name and city of residence for the record. Just want to highlight that there was a revision to the agenda, item 26. There was a PowerPoint presentation that was added. And let's begin with a very special proclamation. I would like to invite the Blue Star Mothers, especially Moira Fisher, president of the Blue Star Mothers, and the rest of the team to come up and join me for a recognition. Today we are recognizing the Blue Star Mothers in their 10th anniversary. They are an amazing group that is supporting not just our service members overseas, but also the families here in the city of Corona. So I'm going to hand over the mic to Ms. Fisher so she can talk to us a little bit about the Blue Star Mothers.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Yes, we are celebrating 10 years of service here in Corona. Thanks to all of you and the wonderful organizations in Corona, such as the Chamber of Commerce, Elks, American Legion, NCL, government, the citizens, everyone. We are so blessed. I attended the National Convention 2 years ago in 2019, and each president is supposed to speak for 1 minute, and they only give you 1 minute, about your chapter. And of course, I mentioned how blessed we are to be in Corona and all the support we receive. And afterwards, 2 mothers came up to me and said, "You are so fortunate. Not only do we get no support, our city wishes there was no military at all." And I thought, oh my gosh, how sad. But we are so blessed to be able to serve our veterans, our troops, and our Gold Star families, so thank you. And at this time, I would like to take a moment to remember our first Vice President, Michelle Connolly's son, Master Sergeant Bobby Connolly Jr., who gave his life in service to his country 4 years ago this very day. Bobby was a Corona resident, and he enlisted in the Air Force right out of high school in 1998. He served in Iraq in 2008 and 2009. 4 years ago, Bobby was assisting with the Wounded Warriors Games competition on his Air Force base in Nebraska and died of sudden heart failure. So if we could please take a moment of silence for Bobby and his Gold Star family. Thank you. Thank you, Corona. We wouldn't be here without you.
Thank you. So on behalf of myself and the City Council, we'd like to recognize you and congratulate the Blue Star Mothers and urge all of our citizens to recognize, honor, and pay tribute to the courageous men and women who serve their country and the families who support them. So thank you. Here we are. Okay, we have one more proclamation in honor of National Small Business Week. I would like to invite Godfrey Hines, the lead economic development specialist for SBA Orange County and Inland Empire office, to join me at the podium to receive this recognition. Well, this is a recognition in honor of National Small Business Week, whereas in the city of Corona, small businesses comprise 91% of the city's total business community and contribute to more than 39,000 jobs in a variety of industries. Myself, on behalf of the Corona City Council, do hereby proclaim the week of May 2nd to the 8th as Small Business Week in Corona and urge the residents of our community and our communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants during Small Business Week. Thank you so much. Okay, next up, we have a presentation from Chief Young, who will provide our COVID-19 update.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As he's pulling up the slides, we'll get going here. So another update. Continue to see a slowing of new cases. Fortunately, the city only experienced 89 new cases total in the last 2 weeks. Significant drop. Fortunately, still 2 additional fatalities, but that is also slowing and continues to slow. Case doubling continues to rise. We're up at 135 days. Staff impacts remain completely neutral. We haven't had a positive case in several weeks. The most significant changes are occurring in the vaccination realm. So we are transitioning our mobile testing vans to mobile vaccine clinics, and those will be continuing to move around the city, representing the various electoral districts, so we get a good representation in order to meet the needs of the community. Additionally, the clinic that moved to Norco, to the gym, several months back, is coming back to the city of Corona, looking for a brick and mortar facility. And we're working with the county and Ms. Gonzalez in economic development to secure a location for that state and county sanctioned site. So a lot of opportunity out there, continues to evolve. Obviously, the total need is starting to drop due to the fact that people are getting vaccinated, but they do anticipate additional people to come on board. So if you just look at the numbers so far, 47% of the total county population has either been partially or fully vaccinated. 33% are fully vaccinated and having 2 shots of the Moderna or Pfizer or the single J&J. And grade number 2 for the most at-risk population, 70% of adults over 65 are vaccinated. So specific details on the vaccination opportunities and the evolution will be obviously posted across all of our platforms. And that concludes my report.
Thanks, Chief. Quick question, as the age keeps dropping, are we seeing an interest in becoming vaccinated? Are we seeing any calls for that, any demand for vaccines in our lower aged residents?
It's relatively low
Yeah.
in the younger population. I mean, I can speak anecdotally. My daughter's the only one of her friends who opted for it. We have a group of about 20 girls, so I would anticipate that's probably a normal representation of the community, but you probably have been following reports that they are doing extensive research to lower it even lower with the J&J, possibly as young as 12. So we'll see. Personally, I don't anticipate it to be huge numbers, but as it continues to evolve, I do anticipate there still will be more need in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards or written comments from the public for the recognition, proclamation, or presentation?
Mayor, we did not receive written comments or speaker cards.
Okay. In that case, let's move on to the meeting minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve minutes from the Committee of the Whole meeting of April 14th, the City Council meeting of April 21st, and the special meeting of April 27th. Well, real quick, Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards or written comments from the public for these meeting minutes?
Mayor, we do not have speaker cards or written comments.
Okay, then I will entertain a motion from my colleagues.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Moved by Councilmember Steiner. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Speak. Vice Mayor, are you able to vote on? Yeah, okay. All right, and that motion passes 5-0. Going to the consent calendar, all items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine matters, status reports, or documents covering previous city council action. The items listed on the consent calendar may be enacted in one motion with the concurrence of the city council, a council member, or any person in attendance may request that an item be removed for further consideration. I want to make note that I am recusing myself from item 22, and Vice Mayor Speak is recusing himself from item 23. We respectively live in both of those districts, so just make note of that. Let's see. Let's go to my colleagues. Councilmember Richens, do you have any items to pull for discussion?
I do. Item number 12.
All right. Councilmember Steiner?
Nothing.
Councilmember Daddario? Nothing. Vice Mayor Speak?
Item 14, I'm sorry, not 14, 15
15?
and 17.
15 and 17. I don't have any polls either. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards or written comments from the public?
Mayor, I received 2 speaker cards, one for agenda item 14 and the other for agenda item 15.
Okay, 14 is a new one, 15 Vice Mayor Speak wants. So in that case, making note of the recusals, I will entertain a motion to pass all items except items 12, 14, 15, and 17. Do we have a motion?
I'll move.
Moved by Councilmember Daddario. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Steiner, and let's take up to a vote. Okay, the consent calendar passes 5-0. Let's go to the first pulled item, which was item 12, and that's Councilmember Richens.
Thank you, Mayor. I pulled this because of the language that accommodated the staff report. And basically, this is an agreement with RCTC to, that the Corona firefighting equipment and police equipment emergency services can enter into their lanes without being penalized. But then in the language, it says, if RCTC isn't happy with all of the lists of vehicles and the maintenance of the lists of vehicles or any transaction by the city, then the city's gonna be responsible, and that's how it's gonna be. Our city is sending our resources to their obnoxious toll road. I don't know why we're playing on their terms. They need us more than we need them. So unless someone convinced me otherwise, I can't vote to approve this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ellis, can you speak to item 12?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm actually going to call on our Fire Chief, Brian Young, who's a little bit more familiar with this contract, and maybe he can speak to the concern.
Thank you, Councilmember Richens. Though I understand your concern from an optics perspective, this is really a housekeeping issue that makes our job a lot easier. Without this contract, we have to manually go through and request those to be removed. They do it as a matter of course of action in the other toll roads. The fact this is a brand-new toll road, for us, it's actually making our life very, very easy because we give them a list of all of our vehicles. It automatically does not charge them or recognize them as a toll-producing vehicle, and really it eliminates all staff work, as opposed to the 91 toll roads where we manually have to go in and reach out to them and say, this was an emergency response, and they have to then remove it. Though I understand the concern about the language that it gives them an out, I'm not concerned about their boilerplate language. This really makes our life very easy.
Thank you, Chief. Then I would say if the 91 is difficult, then before we approve this, let's rewrite the 91 protocols. We're helping them, they're not helping us. So if it's taking our staff time, then make the 91 like the 15 that you're talking about.
If I may, they're two different entities. The 91 toll roads is controlled by OCTA, where this toll road that we're discussing is RCTC.
So the RCTC, I thought RCTC covers the 91 that goes through Corona. That's OCTA?
OCTA operates the toll lanes via Senate Bill 1010, and they operate the toll lanes on the 91. RCTC and OCTA joint manage, but OCTA operates the actual charging and the processing.
Okay, let's see if we have some speaker cards. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards or written comments from the public on this item?
Mayor, yes, I received one speaker card.
Okay.
Good evening, Joe Morgan, 206 Rent. Never mind them not charging us. I remember a discussion about us charging them to service their toll lanes, and I'd like to know what happened with that. I mean, it's one thing, yeah, great, they waive like $9 when we fix an accident in their lane, but, you know, we ought to be getting paid, reimbursed. It's their business. They're profiting from it, not us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other follow-up questions or comments? Councilmember?
No, I'm good. I still think the language should be fixed. I am worried about the boilerplate. We're kowtowing to RCTC, and I don't like it, and I'll publicly say it. So thank you.
I didn't read this item quite as you're perceiving it. I really did read it as just a standard language to allow our folks to do their work. But let's see where we're at. Can I get any other further questions or comments from my colleagues?
Move to approve.
Well, let's see, Vice Mayor, you have a question or comment?
I just wanted to ask the chief, do you know there are any other agencies in the state that charged to respond? I know that there was I think what Mr. Morgan was talking about, there was a discussion about, I know we were trying to go after people's insurance, and I think I had asked Chief Duffy this, back many years ago, but whether or not there are any other agencies in the state that charged either Caltrans or a entity for using or responding to calls.
No, you are correct. We did have this discussion, actually, since I've been here. It was when Mr. Lansdale was still here, and we did conduct research, and there's no past practice where that's occurring. Part of the problem we deal with is the multi-jurisdictional responsibilities of these toll roads, what parts of it are state, what parts of it possibly come in contact with other entities, county property, other responsibilities. So we did research it. There is no other examples where people are effectively charging. And I remember you actually brought it up as a concern when Mr. Lansdale was here. So we did conduct that research, and there wasn't anywhere for us to really go outside of higher level state legislative work. Yes, we could obviously do that, but at the same time, you have to weigh out the staff impacts of it, especially when it hasn't been done anywhere else in the state.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that clarifying question. All right, with no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion for item 12. Moved by Councilmember Steiner. Can I get a
I'll second.
second? Seconded by Vice Mayor Speake. Let's put that up to a vote. And item 12 passes with a 4-1 vote. Going to the next item, item 14. I believe this was from the public. If you've pulled the card, please come up and state your name and city of residence for the record.
Good evening, Joe Morgan, 2063 Wren. This is for the people in the room who haven't been up on what I'm calling Moody's Folly. This is his private property maintenance program. Prior to the spring of 2019, this was private property. The city had never stepped foot inside the gates. Not a single work order, not a single repair order, not a single call for service from DWP or Public Works, period. I did a request, not a single one. Word from staff was, we didn't even know that we could even go in there. Somebody called somebody, got a favor done, and we ended up spending $400,000 to $500,000 banging up equipment and pulling mud out of an HOA drainage culvert. How do I know it's an HOA? I pulled the deed. I pulled all the paperwork. There is no paperwork to be on it. Even the city attorney had to admit that we have no paperwork that substantiates anything. He said, well, you don't always have the paperwork that you would like. I think I'm paraphrasing it about, you don't like to have what you'd like to have. So that was 400. Then there's 6,000 yards of dirt sitting at Water Treatment Plant 1. Then the brilliant thing comes up. There's a FEMA grant for a storm that happened 2/14/19. It's awesome. This is like a pipe dream. Now, they had already been out there working on it. It's private property. Then they turned in a FEMA grant. I said in this room, I hope that FEMA and Cal OES have the same expansive view of public property that the council apparently does. So I called Cal OES. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. So, now tonight there's another $120,000. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you the best part. So blatant lies on the FEMA application. I've got them in the back of the room if anybody wants to see it. Claimed that the dirt came from the airport. Shocker though, if there was dirt on an airport runway, it closes the runway. You have to have a NOTAM. That's recorded on the federal government website, on the FAA website. There was no NOTAM. The runway was never closed. You didn't pull anything off. You have to file the NOTAM if you mow the lawn there. There was no mud pulled out of the taxiways. So this is just one lie begetting another. And then, you got the fake stuff on the FEMA application, and then he hands it to the fire chief to sign. So, this is just one thing after another. So if you're proud of what's going on here, just go ahead and let this go. If you're not proud of it, do something about it, because this is just going to keep on going. We never spent $1 up in that HOA before this debacle. We're going to keep doing it now. Now it's ours, since Moody licked the doorknob now I guess apparently it's our culvert. So the reason why it's costing a lot, because it was never built to be a city facility. You can't get trucks down there, and we have to crane every shovel, every bucket, everything out of there at considerable expense because they built it on the cheap. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. When Mr. Lansdale was here, we had an extensive, I think it was a study session where we covered our responsibility for this drainage. So do any of my colleagues have questions or comments on this item?
Mr. Derleth.
Move to approve.
Wait, Mr. Derleth, did you have something to add?
Only if you have a question.
Okay. No questions. Okay, well then, can I entertain a motion for this item?
Yep, move.
Moved by Councilmember Steiner. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Speake, and let's put this to a vote. That item passes 4-1. Moving on, item 15. Item 15, and that was, I think we have a speaker card, and we have Vice Mayor Speake who wants to speak on it. Go ahead, Vice Mayor, you can start.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to, I looked at most of the list here, and it looks like there was a lot of Mr. Ellis, looked like there was a decent amount of emergency stuff that kind of popped up that you can't really, forecast, so to speak. And I think I asked what the total budget for this group was. I think it was 1.6 million. That was the operating budget for fiscal year 2020.
Vice Mayor Speak, could you clarify for me, which group are you talking about?
Sorry, the building maintenance.
Okay.
And I just wanted to point out that though it looks like a decent-sized number, that I didn't have any issue with, just because I just wanted to make sure the one-offs were truly one-offs, and thank you for that information. I think Mr. Bradley provided that to me, so I just wanted to thank that. And then for item D, which is the garage space for our PD motorcycles, I guess I didn't realize that they kind of sat out. And thank you for Roger to, Mr. Bradley, to provide the information that they are, when they're not being used, they're in the garage, that they aren't just being out in the public, or out in the, UV and inclement weather. And then the rest of the time they are, when they're out on duty. But this is just to put an awning up to make sure that when they're understood, our officers aren't getting onto hot motorcycles and that sort of thing. And I think I asked about the water meter replacements. Just want to ensure those were the smart water meters that were talked about at the water rate study.
The AMIs?
Yes.
You just wanted to confirm that? I can't remember what we said in the email back to you. There's been too many today. I think we either confirmed that they were or they weren't.
Yep, they were. Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that's what we're replacing most with now. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the ones that were on there that were the smart ones.
AMIs,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Was that it, Vice Mayor?
That's it.
All right, let's go to the public. I think we had a card pulled on this item.
Joe Morgan, 206 Rand. I want to thank the city manager for the correspondence this morning, regarding the overtime issue. Where I guess we have a difference of opinion is that facts aren't a closed session item. Negotiations may be. The terms of the repayment, if there's any warranted, is a closed session item. But whether for the last 15 or 20 years there was an overpayment, that you find as a result of this audit, that's not a closed session item. It's not up for debate. It's not a secret. This is public funds. So, you can talk about whether and if and how, because I honestly don't, it's not the employee's fault that this happened. We got to come to some kind of terms, but you can't just bury this and you can't pretend that it didn't happen, because this is serious money. It's, it's 500,000 in 1 year, and we have a right to know whether it was 500,000 over 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. We have a right to know that. And your negotiations have really nothing to do with that. This is akin to the school district when they knew for years that Rozzi stole money and they denied it. Oh, well, it's an investigation. No, this is public funds. This is public money. You do the right thing first. You tell the truth. You tell the truth first. You get it out front, and then you go in the back and work out how you have to do it. There's a reason why we have closed sessions. This isn't it. So you should be forthright about it. You should release the results when you get them, and be open about it. It's, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your comments. So that was item 15. Ms. Edwards, do we have any other speaker cards or written comments from the public?
Mayor, no, we do not.
Okay, then I will entertain a motion for item 15.
So moved.
Moved by Vice Mayor Speak. Can I get a second? I will second. Let's put that to a vote. And that item passes 5-0. Moving on to the last item on the consent calendar for discussion, item 17, and that was, I believe, Vice Mayor Speak.
Thank you. I didn't necessarily need a report. I just wanted to kind of draw this as an example of what an amazing community that we have. Two of these items are really these forward-facing programs and really highlight the community involvement. a group like the Friends of the Corona Public Library have been giving selfishly since 1964. I mean, millions and millions of dollars of not just time, but money. And they literally exist to support the library financially, thousands of hours of volunteer time, and it's amazing what they do. We are very blessed as a community, and because we have such a great library. And second, seeing a new program like the Park Ambassador Program that's going to be engaging the public and getting a much needed attention to the resource that we have in this community and paying the attention that it deserves. I kind of wanted to quote what was in the staff report because I thought it was written so well. Park ambassadors are an example of residents taking pride and ownership in their parks while supporting the community service standard for park use and overall aesthetics. The Community Services Volunteer Program provides multiple ways for residents to serve the community. This includes one-time opportunities like park cleanups, as well as long-term engagement opportunities like tutoring and newly forged Park Ambassador Program, as I mentioned. And this supports those cities' newly minted strategic plan in providing sound infrastructure, safe communities, and most of all, a sense of place. So that's it. I just wanted to highlight that as what an amazing community that we have. And with that, I'll move unless my colleagues have any other comments.
Any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Councilmember Richens.
I'll second the movement.
Okay, real quick. Let's see if we have any calls on this. Ms. Edwards, any speaker cards or written comments on this item?
Mayor, no, we do not.
Okay, well then we've got a motion on the floor and a second. Let's put that to a vote. Item 17 passes 5-0. Okay, moving on to communications from the public. This portion of the agenda is intended for general public comment only on items within the council's jurisdiction that are not listed elsewhere on the agenda. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on these items. Please observe a 3-minute limit for communications, and once called upon to speak, we request that you state your name and city of residence for the record. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards or written comments from the public?
Mayor, we have 2 speaker cards and 1 written comment.
All right, I invite the speakers to come on. Oh, well, let's start with the written comment, actually. I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Hugo Villanueva, and I'm a constituent of the city of Corona. I would like to express my support for discussing the area of placing parking meters and more security cameras on Foothill Parkway near the Skyline Trail for more security in order to address apparent car burglaries, carjackings, and car window break-ins. As I've been inspired by the public parking measures placed by Laguna Beach's efforts to maintain public parking while dealing with visitor levels beyond their normal capacity. I believe this could benefit the funding of added security on Foothill and could be a good option to look into replacing the public parking at Skyline. Thank you, and please have a lovely day.
Thank you. Thank you for writing those comments in, and now we'll take the speaker cards.
Hello, good evening. I hope this is my last time up here tonight. So I listened with rapt bemusement, I guess I'd say, to your comments at the meeting last week where you expressed shock that anybody would think that there was any kind of retribution going on in the city, that staff would do that. And as many as we have issues over things. I've had some issues with some of the things that you've done, but I don't doubt for a second that your comments were heartfelt. I think that to most people that work in the city, any form of retribution would be just disgusting. So I do believe that. And you have, as many differences as we have, you've made some amazing staff hires. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I'll try to be as fair as I can. You know, some of the people you've hired is just flat out amazing. But you're probably noticing some people, probably the professionals that you've hired are probably noticing that there's one person in this group that doesn't quite fit the mold of excellence. And so when we get to retribution, I'll give you some of the greatest hits of this person. And so making fake positions to get raises for his friends, disguising vehicles, changing the badges on them so they look like less expensive than what they are, fake CIP items, The meters can be made to smart items, but that CIP it's never even been funded. So, calling a parks commissioner an effing bitch at a staff meeting and never apologizing, telling staff members, only tell her what you have to tell her to shut her up. Okay, these are witnessed by multiple people in a staff meeting in this building. So, or at a city building. So if this is all right with you, plus the Kraft Ranch debacle, if this is okay with you, now we get to the retribution part. So we do the meter program. Okay, guess the only house that was bounced by DWP on application, once the application was approved by Public Works. Oh, hey, that house, that water main on that house might not be conforming. Only one house. I'll let you all guess which house that was. That's this house, 2063 Wren. Because I had the guts to stand up at a council meeting and say something about it. It's been there for 30-something years. So they went right by and did other houses with 3/4 water mains. They did another house with 200 feet of exposed copper. Went all the way to the back, all the way to the front, all the way to the back. Didn't have a problem with that. They have a problem with ours. I asked Public Works, hey, do you go and dig up other people's yards to check out with you? Nope. If you put it on there and you say it's your house, it's your house. We don't double check. Well, guess what? Mr. Moody does. The difference between him and me, though, I'll look you right in the face. I don't duck.
Oh, please direct your comments.
I don't duck. I'll look you right in the face. I'll say the same thing to your face that I'll say behind your back. I don't play those kind of games. I'll wear that $25 as a badge of honor. Maybe we'll get it fixed, maybe we won't. But I don't care, because I have honor. Thank you.
Moving on to public hearings. Item number 20.
Mayor, we have
Was
an
there another
additional
card?
speaker
Oh, we have a second card. It's okay. Take your time. It's okay. Don't run.
Don't drop here, huh? Carol Buffington, 2089 Wren Avenue, and I'm here actually to speak up after what Mr. Morgan said. I'm one of those that had my meter changed. I turned in 4 of my neighbors' requests all at the same time. And when they came out to do mine, this part I thought was kind of funny. I said to him, oh, what are you going to do? It was the guy next door. You going to do his after this one? He goes, oh, no, we did that a week ago. And they did another one a different time. It's like, what a waste to send somebody out 4 houses within 5, 6 houses of each other. And yet it takes more than one trip to come out and do it. And when I mentioned that, I said, well, God, that seems like kind of a waste of money. And the guy says, yeah, I'm just a worker bee. I just do what I'm told. So moving on, the next thing in this same conversation that I said is, I happened to mention, he didn't, Mr. Morgan. I said, yeah. I said, I won't tell you my exact words, but basically it seems like they're kind of messing with him. And the response that I got really shocked me. He goes, do you blame him? And I went, whoa, really? I said, yeah, actually I do. I said, I've known Mr. Morgan, I lived 2 doors down from him for many, many years. I don't agree with everything he says. I don't always agree with how he says it. That's his right to do it. It's my right to disagree with it. But if I were in a job that I have power over directing something, it is absolutely wrong to use that power to get retribution against an individual because you don't like them. That needs to change. But when he kind of heard you're kidding, really? You really think that's okay? That they kind of go after him because he's a fly in the ointment? And again, I'm just a worker bee. But that worker bee obviously heard that come from somewhere within that department that he would be free enough or dumb enough to make that comment. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Edwards, are there any other speaker cards or written comments from the public?
Mayor, no, there are not.
Okay, moving on to public hearings, we're going to go to item 25. Councilmember Steiner has to recuse himself because he is a board member
For Peppermint Ridge.
for Peppermint Ridge.
Yes, ma'am.
So you've
be
got to leave
outside.
the room. Okay, this is a public hearing for fiscal year 2021-2022 action plan for the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership programs. Does anyone of my council colleagues want a staff report on this item? No? Councilmember Richens? Councilmember Daddario? Neither do I. I feel pretty comfortable with this, so no staff report needed. Public hearing is now open. And Ms. Edwards, has the city clerk's office received correspondence regarding this item?
Mayor, yes, we received one speaker card for this item.
Okay. Can we have the speaker come up and please state your name and city of residence for the record?
Evening. My name is Lori Gwynn. I live in the Temescal Valley, but I'm here speaking on behalf of Assistance League of Riverside. We are very excited that our proposal is among those you are considering tonight for a community development block grant. With the help of this grant, we plan to provide new school clothes and hygiene kits to 175 homeless and economically disadvantaged elementary, middle, and high school students in Corona. These students will be provided these clothes through Operation School Bell, a philanthropy that we have been operating for more than 50 years, since 1967. Currently, the program is being offered to students in 8 area school districts. Now we're planning to add Corona Norco Unified School District and specifically Corona school children. By providing these children and youth with new school clothes that, by the way, they themselves select, we believe the program will enable these students to attend school with greater pride and dignity, which will help remove barriers to learning. Expanding Operation School Bell into this area is kind of a dream for some of us who are members of Assistance League and live in the area. So we would like to thank the City Council and the city staff for opening up this opportunity. And I will tell you that we are very much looking forward to working with the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Glenn, and thank you for the Assistance League for all the work that you do. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to address the City Council regarding this proposed action? I think we do not have one. Okay. In that case, the public hearing is now closed. Do we have a motion to accept this action plan?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion, Mayor.
Moved by Councilmember Richens. Can I get a second?
Second. Go ahead.
Ooh, all right, Councilmember Daddario.
I'll get Steiner.
Thank you. That item passes 4-0. We will wait a moment until Councilmember Steiner joins us. Okay, going on to item 26, administrative reports. Let's see, this is an ordinance amending the Corona Municipal Code, Chapter 12.22, Community Forestry Program, to include an urban forest management plan and adopt Resolution 2021-029 approving the urban forest management plan. I think we all want a staff report on this, so we'll just go straight to Dr. Turner, Community Services Director, and Mr. Moses Cortez, Park Superintendent, to present the report.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Ann Turner. I'm the Director of Community Services, and we are going to be presenting to you tonight on the Urban Forest Management Plan. So just to talk with you a little bit about sort of conceptually what the Urban Forest Management Plan is, it's a set of standardized operating procedures for maintaining and managing the city's urban forest. And it really does set sort of a unilateral, inclusive way of dealing with our urban forests consistently throughout the city. It focuses on some methodologies to perform the tree inspections, maintenance, removals. It offers a comprehensive list of city-approved trees for planting, and it establishes guidelines and procedures for the care and protection of all of our trees, the health, safety, and welfare and quality of life for Corona residents, business owners, and visitors. We are here tonight after going in front of the Parks and Recreation Commission and this body in a study session. We are seeking some final direction from the council on the following items. We'd like you tonight to let us know what your preferred grid pruning cycles are throughout the city. We will give you some options tonight. We'd like some direction on the frequency of reforestation for the vacant tree sites throughout the city, and to provide us direction on whether or not a resident can refuse a shared responsibility tree. So the review of the urban forest management plan, it went, as I mentioned, to the Parks Commission on March 10th, and then it went to study session on March 24th. And I want to let you know that we did incorporate all the feedback that we got both from the commission and from the council. And some of the things we included were we updated the street tree list, and a special thanks to Vice Mayor Speak for pointing out some of those trees that would not work for us. So thank you very much for that, and we have updated the list. We are coming back to you with a request for funding, and that is in the budget, to create a baseline in the urban forest for the grid pruning program. And let me just kind of tell you what that is. We're asking for $150,000 to address the trees that most immediately need to be pruned, evaluated. These are the trees that we do not have proper records on right now, and they need to be pruned as soon as possible. They then will become a part of the grid that is the last part of the grid cycle, whatever grid cycle you choose. But we will be able to address them at least right now, make sure that they're trimmed properly, evaluated properly, and put into our system. And then we have brought before you a schedule based upon our calculations of the cost for reforestation, given you a schedule to begin reforestation in the city of Corona. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Cortez to talk with you about grid pruning.
Thank you, Ann. Good evening, Council. And Councilman Richards, I just want to point out, our Community Services Department got me a shirt that says Tree Warden. So I'm ready.
You're wearing it. That's wonderful.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
You're just missing the hat, Mr.
I
Cortez.
know, I'm not getting the hat yet.
We're working on it.
Working on it. So anyways, what we have here is we have a typical setup that residents would see when a crew is out trimming trees on their street. And this is going to be typical of when we implement the grid pruning program of a boom truck and chipper truck. Next, what we have here is a example of how the grids would be laid out across all the council districts. And this will be split across all the districts, so each district will receive trimming throughout the year, and it's not just going to be focused on one area of the city. Each district will get pruning throughout the year. This also includes the palm trees. So palm trees will be trimmed yearly as through all the cycles. So the palms will be trimmed every year. So what are the benefits of the citywide grid pruning program? For staff, it just really provides that information that we need. The trees get inspected on a regular basis. Their inventory is updated. It provides us a better, more equitable service. And all the trees are going to be trimmed on a cycle right now, so we're not getting this backlog and deferred maintenance as we do right now. Next, we have reforestation. As you can see here, we have some dead trees, and we also have many, many tree wells, approximately 14,000 tree wells that are vacant. And later, we'll have some options for you on how we'd like to fill those. Also, with those 14,000 vacant sites, it creates a very checkerboard pattern. You can drive down many streets, both in the arterials and in neighborhoods, and you'll see many tree wells where they're just vacant. You'll have long stretches with no trees, and we'd really like to be able to get those addressed. And lastly, the reforestation, it provides a full street canopy and creates that sense of place. Really makes it feel like when you're driving down through a neighborhood and you see trees on both sides, you see a canopy, it's green, it really makes it feel like home. And that's, I think, what we're really trying to drive.
So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the ongoing commitment to the urban forest. So we've talked to you over this period of time about sort of what does it look like, how could we do it, but we want to make sure that it's clear that this is an ongoing commitment. It's not just for this upcoming fiscal year, but it is a commitment to say, we as the city of Corona, you as the city council, want to create a look and feel in the city, and you are committed to this urban forest management plan. So we want to let you know that this will mean that there will need to be ongoing funding in future budgets to continue the grid pruning process, ongoing funding for the citywide reforestation, and ongoing funding for our outreach and education programs that support the urban forest and the best practices in how to plant trees, how to care for trees, and our outreach to residents and that outward-facing connection with residents around the importance of trees and what trees mean to our sense of place. So this is the opportunity for you as the council to provide us with some direction. So the pros and cons of the proposed grid pruning standards. So we've got 3 options for you. What we have figured is that 14,000 trees, which is a third of our urban forest, would cost roughly or approximately $3 million to plant. So this then becomes, on what schedule do you want to do? Oh, I'm sorry, we're on grid pruning. I thought we were on reforestation. Sorry, wrong hat. I'll bring it back. All right, so we're talking about grid pruning. So on grid pruning, we have several options as well. We have the aggressive option, which is the 3-year grid pruning option. This is aggressive. It will mean it will have an impact on our staff, our staffing, and on our contractor, because this is quite a few trees to be pruned, but we will get the data more quickly into our system. We will be able to cycle through more quickly, and our trees will be trimmed more quickly, but it does have quite a price tag on it. It is an additional $1 million to do this per year. So let me be very clear that that is not for the whole 3 years. That is per year for 3 years to move to this cycle. We have worked with West Coast Arborist, who is our contracted arborist, and really kind of negotiated, looked at what we had in the budget for our urban forest, and looked at what we had specifically around tree issues, and were able to work with them, and we were able to come up with an option that is a 5-year grid pruning cycle that is budget neutral to you. So it would be absorbed in the current budget, but I want to be completely transparent. Next year, there may be a cost that's added to it, but in fiscal year 21-22, it will be exactly what you have already budgeted for the urban forest. It will allow us to begin the grid pruning cycle. It provides an optimal level of care. It begins getting that data into our Arbor Access, and it will show a noticeable increase, particularly in those areas that haven't been addressed in a little while. They'll really benefit from seeing that service coming in there. And we can manage costs because we're going to be doing whole streets and whole areas at a time. So once we pull out the truck that you saw with the grid pruning, they can service all the trees on that street instead of coming out just for one specific tree, which obviously then brings up the cost when we're doing emergency pieces. And then, of course, council has the option to say we don't want to do a grid pruning schedule at all. And that, of course, is budget neutral. But as you see in the cons, area, it really defeats the purpose of the urban forest management plan. It puts us back into sort of a reactive and subjective way of trimming trees in Corona, and it moves away from the goal of an equitable, transparent access for all Corona residents and becomes sort of a spiky, so certain trees are done, other trees are not, certain neighborhoods get attention, others don't, and we would like to change that model. All right, now you heard this pitch already, but I'll give it to you again. This is the reforestation pitch. So we calculated the 14,000 open tree wells in Corona, and we came up with a total cost of $3 million to do that reforestation. And we've broken out the payment in 3 different ways. So we've done 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years. 3 years is a very aggressive schedule. It would put some pressure on our staff and on our contracted staff through West Coast Arborists, but it is absolutely possible to do. And that would mean allocating $1 million a year for 3 years and getting those 14,000 trees in. Your second option is the 5-year, which is $600,000, and it allows us to plant about 2,800 trees. It also allows us to do some more outreach to the community as we're planting those trees, so that we're sort of doing that in tandem. We're doing outreach events and education in tandem with the planting of the trees, and there's not such a rush to get the trees into the tree wells as there is to bring the community along with us as we do the planting. And it does allow us to get on that much needed grid pruning schedule and to have all of that data that we need. The con of this is that that's a more modest pace than the first option, which is highly aggressive. And then we have the 10-year replacement schedule, which puts you at about $300,000 per year. This would be very modest. I think that for the most part, residents would see a difference, but not quickly, and not the same kind of impact that you would get with the 5-year schedule. We could absolutely incorporate it. There is no real impact on staff or staffing for this. It would allow as well for the education piece. But it's a less noticeable impact. People might be waiting, and estimates are currently based, this $3 million is currently based on what the industry cost is now. If we go on this 10-year schedule, those costs of those trees may rise during that 10-year period. We feel very confident that we can lock it in for a 5-year replacement schedule, but there may be cost increase in a 10-year replacement schedule. So the recommendations tonight, and I will read this exactly as it is written, which is the recommendation tonight is that you introduce by title only and waive the full reading for consideration of ordinance number 3328, first reading of an ordinance amending Corona's Municipal Code, Chapter 12.22, the Community Forestry Program of the Corona Municipal Code, to change the chapter title to incorporate the Urban Forest Management Plan, and to amend all sections to incorporate updated landscaping guidelines. Number 2, staff is recommending that you adopt a resolution 2021-029 of the City Council of the City of Corona, California, approving an urban forest management plan. 3, we are asking for direction on the frequency of the reforestation of the vacant tree sites throughout the city and whether a resident can refuse a tree. And 4, provide direction on a preferred grid pruning cycles throughout the city. This concludes our report, and either Mr. Cortez or myself are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Turner, and thank you, Mr. Cortez. Ms. Edwards, did we receive any speaker cards or written comments from the public on this item?
Yes, Mayor, I have one speaker card.
Okay.
Hello. Good evening. This is an example of what I was talking about earlier. I don't even know, I don't know where you even came from, that all this stuff in what, 4 or 5 months, that we can get all this done. Just between the Trails Master Plan, Urban Forestry Plan, I'm just wondering what we were doing before. You know, because I sat in this room dozens of times and got to hear all about our Urban Forestry Plan, you know, from the person who was in charge of them before. What a great plan we had, and how we were on top of it, and apparently we weren't. So, I mean, if it was a matter of we didn't have the money to do it, that would have been a good time to say it. You know, I think it's, you know, the good doctor, thank you very much. I really appreciate the hard work you're doing. Thank you.
Ms. Edwards, are there any other speaker cards or written comments?
No, there are not.
Okay, let's bring it up to my colleagues. Questions, comments? Councilmember Richens, I saw you go for your mic.
That's what happens when you sit next to the mayor and city manager on the other side. They keep you well in line. So I agree with Joe. I think Dr. Turner is a rock star. And even before she got here, I thought they were going to give her a parade. I've never heard anybody so hyped up. So good job, Dr. Turner. Good job, Moses, tree warden. And if people haven't read the history on our first tree warden, he ended up being the mayor. So maybe you have
Bright future ahead for you, Mr. Cortez. I don't know if I recommend it, but.
I might be sitting to the left of you before too long.
Councilmember Richens, can you share your thoughts on these plans?
I don't want to. I'll talk about Moses and then.
Okay.
But yes,
You're already trying to replace me.
I'm straight across the board. Option two, more or less.
5 years?
The 5 years and for both.
Okay.
I think everybody here is going to be 5-0. A blind man can see it. So, but good job, and I think the mayor's going to bat me if I keep talking. So
No, you're fine, you're fine.
have at it.
Okay, Councilmember Daddaria or Councilmember Steiner, can I get your thoughts
Yeah, I had also picked the 5-year pruning and 5-year replacement options.
for both?
Yes.
And I would like to get your thoughts on refusal, whether or not a resident can refuse a tree. So I don't know if you'd like to chime in on that?
Whatever Steiner said.
Forest plan, let's do the forest plan.
Whatever Steiner says.
Tree.
That's where I'm at.
Okay, great.
Take the tree,
Councilmember
let's get some
Daddaria?
shade.
You got 2 votes, Jim. Good job.
What's that? Oh, yeah, pretty good.
Tom, so whatever you say.
Thanks, Tom.
You guys are rather easy today.
I actually picked I was actually a fan of the 5-year plan for the pruning and the 10-year replacement schedule. And I am for 100% a citizen being able to deny a tree.
Okay. Vice Mayor Speak?
Thank you. I'm 100% for 2 all the way across the board. I think that our urban forest is, I think Dr. Turner said at one of our first meetings how many millions of dollars it's worth to us, not only as a city, but for our resale value, for our benefit as a community. I walked a neighborhood on Monday with some residents and said, "Hey, Wes, I want to show you some things." And so we walked up and down Upper for about an hour and a half, and I can tell you they pointed out some issues, and we have some things we have to fix, and we're addressing them in this plan. And I'm very pleased. I told them to watch tonight. I know that they couldn't come because they both had other plans, but they were going to be watching tonight. And I do think that I would love to see it happen in 3 years. I think 5 years is good because I think that really goes into our education, teaching people how to water a tree. They don't know. And frankly, if you walk around, you see, and I think frankly, the city's not doing a great job at watering trees. And you look at some of the trees that were planted on Upper Valencia, the roots are just crawling along the surface because we haven't done a good job. So hopefully we can use this. 14,000 trees is a lot of trees, but I can't tell you how happy that makes me to plant 14,000 trees. There's not too many good things that you can do both for yourself, for your community, and frankly, for the environment than to plant 14,000 trees. And I hope we can get a pledge from our residents to plant 14,000 trees on their own property. In fact, I think I'd like to see as a match there. we plant 14,000, the residents plant 14,000 on their own properties. From a habitat management and from a management standpoint, a checkerboard pattern is horrible. I do biological studies and manage restoration projects for native habitat restoration, and the worst way to manage anything is a checkerboard pattern. It's the absolute worst way. I'd love to have it done faster, but I think 5 years is good. There's a benefit there. As for people opting out, I read the emails from people that don't want a tree, and I know why, because of some of the issues, but I think frankly, we can fix a lot of those issues by, getting ahead and showing people how to do this. So I'd like the option for folks, I think, what was in the plan before, what was in the plan that they couldn't opt out unless there was an appeal process, right? Do I remember that right?
So the appeal process was
To remove a tree.
to remove a tree. It wasn't for the opt-out piece. I'm happy for if the council so chooses, we could say that if somebody has some trepidation about having a tree, that staff can work with that person, try to educate that person. Clearly, we're not going to have you say, heck, I don't want a tree, and us just then plant one in your front yard. That would not be best practices. We would want to work with you. And for that tree to sustain and live, we want this to be a collaborative effort. But yeah, we could take the tree removal appeals process and put that also on somebody opting out from having a tree planted.
Madam Mayor, that's what I would prefer. Because I do think that there are some individual people that, they don't want the tree, don't want to take care of the tree, but if we have a chance to educate, maybe we can talk them into it. I know we're giving you the okay tonight, I think. I think there's 3 votes so far.
That's exactly what we're doing.
The layout or how we plant these trees and where we plant these trees, do we have a criteria of where we're gonna do parkways first, we're gonna do residence areas first? Do we have any kind of idea, or am I way too early? Which I frequently am.
You're a little early.
Okay, all right.
We needed the okay before we sat down with the arborist and looked at that, but we're happy to report back to council on a consent item once we have that plan together, so you can see exactly how we're moving forward.
That'd be great. I'd love to see our parkways kind of get some love first, just because they do benefit the most residents. So that's my position.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you for that. I agree with the transferring over the appeal process and mimicking something similar for folks who don't want to have a tree. I'm hoping, though, that as they're seeing their neighbors get trees and in the conversations and maybe engaging them in the process of planting the tree, that it could maybe soften some hearts and we can get some more trees out there because it's just better for our environment. So maybe those folks can come around. Maybe they can take a tour with our tree warden and see all the great benefits of trees. And they can come around and there won't be too many holdouts. I like the 5-year schedule for both reforesting and the pruning standard. I think definitely getting us into a more proactive approach in the pruning makes so much more sense. And I like the equity piece that we're now focusing on every district, and every district is going to, get the same amount of love and attention, and it's not just going to be, the folks who call in who get the pruning done. So I'm glad that we're moving in that direction. It looks like there's consensus for a 5-year pruning schedule. And then for the reforesting, I too would love to see us get it done in 3 years. It doesn't sound like it's possible, though, especially if what we're trying to do here is really collaborate with residents and get them involved in this long-term sustainable, education piece of how to water your tree. So it seems like 5 years is really more doable for us. I recognize the cost difference, but I think that with this sort of thing, I really want the wow factor. I would love to see, while we're getting on schedule for the pruning, that folks really have a noticeable change, that they have a noticeable difference in the community and they realize, there's a lot more trees here. I feel a little different about my neighborhood. What is it? It's kind of like when you see someone and you're like, something's different. You cut your hair. Something's different. We have more trees. So I want to see that 5-year replacement schedule. And I think the last thing you needed direction on was, so I think we all agreed on, majority agreed on 5-year replacement for both. And then I think there was 2 of us that wanted to see the appeals process move to the something similar for folks who don't want a tree in their yard. Councilmember Daddario, do you agree with that?
So just so I'm clear, if I decide that I don't want a tree, then they're going to try and educate me and persuade me that I do want a tree.
And you have
But if I still don't want a tree,
right,
no tree.
we will honor your choice.
Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, that you would be able to say to the Parks Commission, I don't want a tree in front of my house, and the Parks Commission would hear why you don't want a tree in front of your house, and then, yes.
No, but there will be adequate notice. I say this because, in my neighborhood, there's a lot of people that are xeriscape, right? So they've removed grass and they've gone to a desert, and quite frankly, one of the trees wouldn't really fit in with what they've done already. And so I would hate for somebody to have and I know I'm going to get this wrong, but, have a pine tree in the middle of their desert scape or something along those lines. And so I don't want to, I don't want to take that right away from somebody. So
I hear you.
that's my argument. But if there's a process with which they can come and say, hey, this doesn't really fit, then I'm okay with that.
I hear you. I think we're all saying that same thing, right, Mr.
Yeah,
Cortez?
and there'll be advance notice, we'll make sure we contact the resident, we'll tell them what kind of trees are going in, there'll be door hangers, plenty of advance notice to the residents.
Yeah, all right, and that's a majority for that item as well. Okay, Ms. Edwards, I know Dr. Turner read it all. Does that get us off the hook from reading it?
It still has to be read with the motion.
All
At
right.
least the first 1A, where it's introducing the ordinance, that needs to be read.
Just the A?
Correct.
Okay. All
read it.
right, let's see, where are we? We already went to speaker cards and my colleagues. So then I will entertain a motion, and whoever moves must read item A.
I'll motion,
right,
and I don't
Councilmember.
mind reading.
Go ahead, Councilmember.
This is 26, right?
26A.
I had a sec to read the wrong one. I'd like to make a motion to introduce by title only and waive full reading for consideration of ordinance number 3328, first reading of an ordinance amending Corona Municipal Code, Chapter 12.22, Community Forestry Program of the Corona Municipal Code to change the chapter title to incorporate an urban forest management plan and to amend all sections to incorporate updated landscape guidelines.
Excellent. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Daddario. We can take that to a vote.
My screen doesn't like me.
Oh, change it on the side to agenda, right there on that screen. Yep. It should come up.
Now.
Yeah. Okay, and that item passes 5-0. Thank you again, Mr. Cortez and Dr. Turner. We appreciate it. Okay, moving on to item 27, fiscal year 2021, quarter 3 update. We have Ms. Kim Sinton, Finance Director, who's going to present the report.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. Tonight, I'm presenting you with information on budget update through quarter 3 for fiscal year 2021. We'll start off with the general fund. So hitting the highlights on the revenue and transfers inside, the net increase we're estimating for this fiscal year is an increase of about $6.2 million or 4.5%. That's compared to the original budget that was adopted when we adopted the budget for fiscal year 2021. This is about $2 million increase from what we originally presented you at mid-year when we did the quarter 2 budget update. And we'll walk through some of those changes. Sales tax is estimated to increase by $4 million. This is based on the last quarterly update we had with HDL. They presented at the Committee of the Whole on April 14th. I invite anyone to watch that recording to listen to some of the details. Attached to that agenda was the newsletter as well as the consensus forecast, and the consensus forecast from HDL that goes through different segments of the sales tax components is attached to tonight's agenda as well with this presentation. The intergovernmental revenues are increasing overall by about $3.2 million. This is up by about $500,000 from what we presented at mid-year, and most of that is in the mutual aid reimbursement category. One thing to just as a reminder is that when the revenue on this side of the equation goes up, there's also increased overtime costs in the fire side as well as they're responding to different fire incidents. Property tax overall is decreasing about $800,000. At mid-year, we thought that was going to be a decrease of about $1.2 million, so it's better by about $400,000. And that's primarily in the secured and unsecured prior year taxes. In current services, we're estimating a decrease of about $700,000, but we originally thought that would be a decrease of about $1 million. We're better in plan check services, cannabis fees, and some fire service agreements. There do continue to be decreases in recreation revenues and facility rentals. So this is an overall snapshot of the whole picture. You can see the cumulative budget. What this is the adopted budget that was originally approved, plus any changes that have been approved by City Council since that time. So you can see the cumulative budget is about $136.3 million. This represents an increase of about $282,000 from the original adopted number. So overall, when you compare the cumulative budget, to the mid-year estimates that have been updated through April, it's about a 4.3% increase for this fiscal year that we're estimating. Then taking that information and looking at the mid-year estimates as compared to where we are through quarter 3 of 2021. So with 3 months left to go in the fiscal year, we're about 75% through the fiscal year, and revenues received so far are about 73.3%. So fairly close to that 75% target. It looks like we're pretty much on track. There is always a bit of a timing issue for certain items that, kind of have a certain timing sequence. For instance, in other taxes, you'll notice that that percentage is a little bit low. It's about 59.9%. One of the items in there are franchise fees that we receive from various utilities as well as the waste hauler. Southern California Edison and SoCal Gas, they pay a one-time annual amount to us, and that comes in April. So that amount is not included through the end of March. One item to note is the investment earnings, the very last, or the close to the bottom there, shows a decrease of about 61%. So it looks like it's a net negative number of about 1.9 million. And I don't know if you recall, but this is where we talk about some of those book entries that we have to take care of for our investment earnings. If we were to adjust for that item, this item would actually show positive of $2.5 million. So hopefully as we get through the end of the year process, those will kind of even itself out and it won't end in so much of a negative position. So then going over some of the highlights for the expenditures and transfers out, like I said, through March, we're about 75% through the fiscal year. Overall, our outflows of the percentage of cumulative, I can't say that word tonight, cumulative budget, we're about 71.3%. One of the items in here, it does include the name change for community services, formerly shown as library and recreation services, and then also park maintenance moved from the maintenance services department over under community services. So just to talk about some of the outliers, departments that are over 80% spent are debt service, and that's just because of timing of how those payments are made throughout the fiscal year to pay on the city's debt in the general fund. And then like I mentioned, fire, particularly for that mutual aid item where we saw the revenue increase, we're seeing some increases in overtime for responding to some of those fire incidents. Some of the departments that are less than 70% spent, capital improvement projects, which are multi-year items, community development, community services, maintenance services, management services, and public works. The reduction there, or the fact that they're trending just a little bit lower, primarily has to do with vacancies, with the exception of management services. A lot of that is centered on the homeless program activity. So then this gives you a snapshot of where that 71.3% is coming into play, looking at the cumulative budget compared to what we spent through March 31st, quarter 3 of 2021. Then this gives you an updated mid-year forecast with the revised numbers that I discussed on the revenue changes. This is mid-year of fiscal year 2021 as compared to the adopted numbers. We originally had estimated we would be deficit spending by about $9.8 million in the current fiscal year. With all the current estimates for expenditures and revenues, it's looking like it's closer to about $8.8 million. We are continuing to look at where there are potential savings through the fiscal year. We did not have that information completed for this particular update, but we will come back to council with revised numbers at our next update. Any questions on, I'm sorry, one more slide on the general fund. This is just a snapshot of the reserves. This is the same information as what was presented at mid-year. It's just a snapshot of 3 of the main reserve categories that we just usually get brought up for discussion. There are multiple reserves in the general fund, but these are just hitting the 3 big ones. Any questions on the general fund before we move on to DWP?
Do we have any questions from our colleagues? Nope. Let's move forward.
Okay, so moving on to the DWP funds. Here's a list of the funds that are under the water group, water reclamation, and electric funds. These are similar to the way they're grouped in the CAFR. So some of the highlights on the revenue side, the net increase is about $4.9 million, or 4.1% as compared to the original budget. This is up about $4 million from the mid-year update, and that is primarily for the first grouping there under the water category, from the Water Capacity Fund, which is development-related activity, and from water utility grants. Those are the primary drivers of the increase that we're seeing in this revenue category here. Water reclamation is showing an increase of about $400,000. That's the same as what was presented at mid-year, and electric decreasing by about $14,000. That's the same as what was shown at mid-year. And then here's the overall snapshot of that cumulative budget. Like I mentioned, it's the adopted budget plus any changes that have been approved by council since the beginning of the fiscal year. And it's up by about $4 million, like I mentioned, primarily for those revenues from the grants that we discussed. And then taking those mid-year estimates that have been updated through April and showing where we are through quarter 3. And you can see that we're at about 61.4% of overall inflows received. Like I mentioned, there's some timing issues here. Some of the activities relate specifically to development. And then one of the items that we mentioned at the last update are the delinquencies that we're having on utility accounts. We were originally going to bring that back to discussion at the committee of the whole next week. However, the American Rescue Plan could potentially help with some of those items, and those guidelines are supposed to be issued on the 12th, which is the same day as the committee of the whole. So we're going to hold off on bringing you that information until we've seen what those guidelines are, what exactly we can spend it on, and then we'll bring you some options. Then some highlights on the expenditure side. For electric, we've spent about 50.6% of the budget. Water is about 43.6%, and water reclamation is about 35%. And then here's an overall snapshot of the different funding sources in the departments under each of those funds. For the capital improvement projects, you can see the percentages are fairly low, but like I mentioned, those are multi-year projects. For public works and for DWP, with them trending just a little bit lower, those are primarily driving from vacancies, is what's driving those numbers to be a little bit lower than the 75%. Any questions on the DWP items before moving on to COVID?
Questions from my colleagues? Seeing none?
Okay. So if you're talking about COVID budget impacts, there's a typo here. I apologize. That first bullet point, COVID costs through 3/31 should be $2,727,242. The number didn't get updated from the last presentation. That is an increase of about $500,000 since the information was presented to you at mid-year. And then you can see
Can you say that number one more time?
Sure, it matches the table right below it.
Oh, I see.
$2,727,242. So you can see the different categories here of where the expenditures have come into play, and then the breakdown of the different funding sources. And like we've said throughout this whole thing is the total cost will be dependent on once everything is completed. These are some of the funding sources that we've received related to COVID activity. This is the exact same information as the last budget update that was presented to you. And like I mentioned on that American Rescue Plan, we're estimated to receive $31.1 million. And as soon as we have the final guidelines, we'll bring that back to you for discussion at one of the committees to talk about exactly how we're going to spend those funds. And this is a snapshot of where we are for sales tax revenues. We're always at a 1-quarter lag, so we've received through fourth quarter of calendar year 2020. And so you can see overall we've received about $23.6 million. Down near the bottom, our mid-year updated projection for this fiscal year is $44.7 million, so we've received about 53% of the sales tax we estimate for this fiscal year. So what's next is we have the last budget workshop, which will be coming up on May 18th, where we'll kind of look at the overview and the recap of the entire fiscal year 2022 budget. And then we'll bring that forward to City Council for adoption at the June 2nd, 2021 meeting. And then we will have a quarter 4 budget update for fiscal year 2021 planned for our August 4th meeting. And I'm available for any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards or written comments from the public on this item?
Mayor, no, there are not.
Okay, do my colleagues have any questions or comments? No. Good job. Thank you so much, Ms. Sitton. Again, it's you make it easy for us to follow, and so we really appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 28, which was a request from Councilmember Daddario to review and discuss illegal dumping prevention. For this, we have Mr. Denzel Maxwell, Assistant to the City Manager, who's going to present the report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I'm going to be discussing illegal dumping prevention. In my presentation, I will be highlighting current concerns, current bulk trash program, illegal dumping prevention options, and recommendations and seeking your direction. The majority of the illegal dumping we are seeing is occurring in alleyways, near high-dense residential areas, undeveloped areas, as well as open spaces. When looking into seeing what is being dumped, we're seeing furniture and appliances, and furniture really is, we're seeing it more in the move in and move out phase, and then with appliances, we're seeing it when people scrap the appliance for things like copper and then dumping them. We're also seeing landscape waste and construction material, and a large portion is also transient debris, so shopping carts full and suitcases full of materials. It is also unlawful to dump and litter in the city of Corona. Violations, fines for dumping in the city is $250 to $1,000 upon the first conviction, and $500 to $1,500 upon the second conviction, and $750 to $3,000 upon the third and subsequent conviction. Currently, residents of Corona are provided bulk trash pickup through contract with Waste Management. Each resident or each household is provided 3 bulk item pickups per year, and items include sofas, chairs, washers, and dryers. And residents are also able to have additional pickups beyond the 3 at a fee. On this slide, I would like to highlight staff taking proactive steps to prevent dumping. In the pictures you see here, the Community Services Department went out and put fencing over the top of trash enclosures in our parks to take proactive steps in preventing dumping while the park is closed. So here are some things that we can do. We can look into education public service announcements, looking at the need for additional street lighting, looking into data tracking, expanding the bulk pickup services, looking into installing cameras in hotspot areas, and a resident reward program. So for education PSAs, some of the pros we're seeing that there would be no additional costs if we use our in-house services. It gives us an opportunity to educate the community on dumping in illegal dumping and also alternatives. And also, we're able to reach residents through various forms of media. Some of the cons we're seeing would be the potential costs if we decided to use print or paid advertising, as well as we would have to use multiple forms of outreach to reach a large audience. For additional street lighting, the pro is you'll see in well-lit areas, there's potential that it could deter people from illegally dumping. But cons is that the cost of installation and maintenance, as well as lighting near airport may need to be allowed through federal regulations. And there are also some environmental concerns that would have to be looked at. So for data tracking, we see data tracking as a tool that can help staff target illegal dumping hotspots throughout the city. But then also, one con is that it's a self-reporting process, and so data points will be approximate. One of the streets that Councilmember Daddario highlighted was Recon between Smith and Cordon. And there's approximately about 20 tickets that were submitted for that area from 2020 to present. But when looking at the data, it's towards the ends near Smith and Cordon and not really on the road, but through looking at the hotspot, you're still able to see that there is dumping in the area. I'd like to thank DWP and IT. They've been working over the last couple weeks to start to create this dashboard for us that kind of we could start to see some hotspot areas within the city of Corona. This is just an early example of how we can use data tracking in the city to determine hotspot areas. The data shown here is 2020 to present, and this is early data and still a work in progress. Next, something that we could look into is enhance the bulk trash services. Excuse me. This would allow more set pickup days for residents to have more opportunities to dispose of unwanted items in their home, but it would come at a cost approximately $200,000 to $400,000 per year, depending on scale and participation, and that would be about a 1% to 2% rate increase for residents. Something else we could look into is the installation of cameras. Pro is that it could be a deterrent to potential dumpers. It could potentially record offenders in action, and it does provide an additional intelligence source. With it, there is a cost to lease a camera. It's about a $3,000 yearly payment, as well as the recommendation would be to mount that camera to a trailer. So there'll be a one-time trailer cost of approximately $3,000. And the reason behind that is so that it can be mobile and go to different locations. Another thing is that it also must be reported to start the investigation process, and that since most dumping happens at night, there's potential that it could misidentifying the offender. And lastly, detectives use the bulk of their time looking into investigating misdemeanors and felonies, and so it may lead to a delay in investigating infractions, which is what illegal dumping is. And lastly, one thing we can look into is creation of a resident reward program. This would promote residents to get involved in the prevention, as well as incentivize them. There will be a cost while it is small, and also there will be staff time to manage and promote the program. So just to give an overview, the options that I talked about in this presentation would be an education PSA, which we believe it would be up to about $10,000, which would include print media, as well as door hangers in targeted areas, additional street lighting, which approximately is about $14,000 per light pole, data tracking, expanding the bulk pickup services program, which is looking about $200,000 to $400,000 per year, depending on scale. The installation of cameras, which would be a $3,000 lease payment per camera per year, and then a one-time cost per trailer of $3,000 per camera, and then a resident reward program that looking to be about $250 per award. So due to the expected return on investment, staff recommends the 4 highlighted items in green. And Mayor, at this time, we would like to pause and seek any direction from council.
Thank you, Mr. Maxwell. Do you have more of a presentation, or is this the end?
This is the end.
Okay, thank you. In that case, let's see if we have speaker cards or written comments, and then I'll come back to my colleagues for questions and comments and direction. Any speaker cards, Ms. Edwards?
No, we do not.
And any written comments?
No, we do not.
Okay, great. All right, let's come back to my colleagues for some discussion. Any questions, comments? Like to hear your thoughts. Councilmember Richens?
I have one question. How much does the city pay a year to clean up illegal dumping? Do we know those costs?
Wait until it's green.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. At the moment, we're looking at a cost of about $100,000 per year, and that's due to the cost of tonnage that is picked up.
That's just the tonnage, that's not staff time, you said? Or is that staff time as well?
Tom may be able to talk to staff time.
That's correct. That doesn't include staff time.
That does?
It does not include staff time. That is just the tonnage that we pick up that has to be delivered to the dump.
Thank you.
So would you add another 100,000 in staff time, or would it be more than that?
We don't have that data currently broken out, and it would likely vary depending on the year and the amount that we pick up.
But if you had to guess, plus or minus 100,000?
I wouldn't guess, sir.
I will. It's going to be more than $100,000 if you include all the staff time fully loaded. I think that's probably, but Tom's right. We haven't collected that data, so we're just speculating.
Sure. And I didn't know I was going to ask the question until tonight, so totally get it. And good job, Denzel. I'm cool with the recommendations, with maybe the exception of the expand bulk up, just because of the price that it costs. I would like to give a challenge to the police chief to catch just one of these dudes, just one, and put them on the while you were sleeping report, just for bragging rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. And I have a question. It's burning, but I'll wait my turn. Councilmember Steiner?
Thank you. So my original thought was that we could do a little bit of everything with the exception of expanded pickup, primarily because I think the people that are dumping, you could have a pickup at their home every month or two, and they're probably still going to dump. So I really would hate to see a rate increase for that reason. But with the other items like lighting and cameras and education, resident reward, data tracking, I think there's value to all of that in some cases. But I know, like in District 4, Palisades is a hot spot, but that's really the only one that jumps out at me. And of course, the data would tell us where you're going to pick up the most items. And Tony, of course, you got Rincon, and I don't know if you have a lot of areas in your district that are like that, but it's mostly these isolated areas. I'm guessing, Tom, you're probably getting all the alleys, so maybe in the alleys is where you can install some lightings and a camera. Maybe on those a couple other hotspots, you can be a little bit more aggressive, but do a full-blown PSA campaign, rewards, things like that. So I think maybe I'm considering some sort of a hybrid to what was presented.
Okay. Councilmember Daddario?
Great report, Mr. Maxwell. I think you're going to make a fine city manager one day. So yeah, when I brought this up, I drive Rincon almost on a daily basis, and in fact, on my way to council today, it was 4 or 5 tires, another mattress, random bags of God knows what, and I think it's a combination. I personally think it's people that are driving to that area specifically because it's not heavily traveled. It's dark. It's easy for them to dump things, and I see a lot of construction materials appliances, a lot of mattresses for some strange reason. And it's really sad to see, considering as I know how much effort goes into cleaning up that area just from our homeless neighbors and all of the things and all the hoops that we have to jump through. The one thing about this report that I was hoping to see that I didn't is I think a camera, a trailer mounted camera is, especially in some of those areas, is going to be taken apart and stripped down in a matter of, minutes. But there are poles there, and I would have liked to have seen, us reaching out to some of our partners that are doing different types of cameras already in our community and seeing if that's something that they do. Because you can mount cameras to a pole. The other thing that I saw in this report was our dumpsters. I know in my neighborhood, Fairview Park, there is a dumpster and it is locked, and it's not in a surrounding. It's not in a surround with a cover or anything like that. But one of the things that I see all the time at uncovered dumpsters, and Warden Cortez could probably attest to this, is that people will just leave their trash on the outside of that container or the enclosure. I've even seen things just piled on top of a locked trash bin. And so I would have liked to have seen cameras. I know that Rincon is a hot spot in my district. So is up and down Auburndale. And I know where you're talking about off of Palisades. There's a little bit of a cliff, and I'm sure people pitch stuff off that cliff really quickly. And I think that, and obviously in the Circle District, there's going to be a lot of in the alleyways. I really would have liked to have seen a little bit of investigation on cameras, pole-mounted cameras. The trailer is just not going to work. It's going to get stripped apart. I think we all know that. And one of the highlights of my year, I don't know how this happens at my house, but the hazardous waste pickup, I mean, that is one of the most well-oiled machines here in Corona. I don't know how it is in my house that I just always seem to have hazardous waste, extra paint or something along those lines. And that's a highlight for me to go and to dump that because it's such a well-oiled machine. I don't know if when we expand bulk pickup services, if that's something that we could look into as your bulk item throwaway day. But my intuition tells me that there's people that are traveling into our city from other locations outside the city, dumping, especially along Rincon and probably along Palisades as well, because it's an opportunistic zone for that. So I love the resident reward. I would hope that residents would call. I pray for the day that I drive by Rincon and I see somebody dumping, just because I would be so happy to help educate them. But I would, I'd like to see some education. I'd like to see us expand bulk pickup services. I know my neighbors don't know about the bulk pickup. They just don't. And so I'd love to see some education on that, expanding the bulk pickup services, take another stab at cameras and the resident reward.
Thank you, Councilmember. Vice Mayor Speak.
Thank you. Mr. Maxwell, nice job. This is very comprehensive, really highlights all the options here. I agree with Councilmember Steiner that I think the PSA part is really important, and as to Councilmember Daddario said, yeah, a lot of people don't know about the bulk pickup. I didn't know about the bulk pickup until a few years ago, even though I haven't used it, but I've been able to tell other people. So I think that's very valuable. I think that we can probably lean a little bit on our partners, Waste Management, to help put that out. I know I frequently would see things in my a mail from them. I'm sure that they probably have some state grant money that's somewhere for bulk pickup, or at least we can put some recycling or something on it. The lighting, I think that lighting is going to just push it to somewhere else. I think unless you can light up everything, I just think it's I think there's other areas of the city that would love to have lighting, and over on Lemon and Lime, and Mr. Varela, I think would kill us if we put a street light on an area just because we want to get people to stop dumping because they would just pick somewhere else. Staff time, the data tracking, I think that's a good thing. I don't think that expanding the bulk pickup services, I agree with my colleagues that the price tag is just too high. I think that folks were that want to dump are just going to dump because they're lazy. I think that, I look to our neighbors to the south in Temescal Valley, and they have a robust report program, and they are relentless. If they see someone dumping and talk about, dirt roads with no lights, they got nothing but dirt roads with no lights. And they have a member of their MAC, their advisory committee, that will go out and they do cleanups, and they try and identify where it came from. And they're of no shame about putting people's addresses and telephone numbers and names and stuff on social media and blasting. And they've seen, I think I would say that they've seen a little bit of a decrease. I'm not saying we go that far, but I do think it's important that we do publicize those things. And Chief, I know your guys got a lot of other things to do. And we have getting some of these new officers in place, but I think that the resident reward program is good, highlighting that fact and finding ways to get that done. As for cameras, I can show you probably a half a dozen dumps from one location just over on Lincoln. And literally, as a contractor that comes up, he knows there's a camera there. He probably I think he has a little problem with one of the residents' businesses in that building. And he comes up once a week and dumps a bunch of crap in the front. He just covers his license plate, and he dumps windows and trash and all kinds of stuff every single week. So I think the cameras, as Mr. Maxwell said, I think that the staff time spent in trying to figure out whether or not that's a real thing or someone that just covered their license plate, they'll figure it out. So I think I agree with doing the PSA, the data tracking, the resident reward. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Now, here's something I didn't know, and I don't know if my colleagues know, but folks who live in apartments or multi-units do not have access to those 3 cleanups a year. It's a lot of people in our city who, if they try and call Waste Management will say, you're actually not the owner, you're not our client, so your owners have to call in. And that just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Apartment unit management companies do not call in for mass pickups. Now, look, I'd like to say that all of our residents are amazing and they're not the ones that are doing the dumping, but some of these places are pretty hard. I mean, it's pretty in the city. It's not on a main street. So I would probably venture to say that dumping is probably happening, by our own residents. But we have to give people a way to get rid of their bulk items. And if so many of our residents live in apartments and condos and don't have access to that kind of pickup, we have to give them an alternative. So I believe in expanding the bulk pickup service, but I want to see something similar to what Councilmember Daddario said, which is, can we have maybe biannually a drive-through dump here at City Hall where maybe we have, those big units and folks can drive through with their couches or whatever it is that they're getting rid of, and give them an out. And I hope that if we were able to do something like that, maybe in partnership with Waste Management, because they're not having to go out to these big apartment units, that would, move around and not result in a rate increase to ratepayers. I'd like to see that because clearly, dumping is happening, and we know that there's a large portion of our residents who don't have access to this pickup. So I would like to see an expansion of our bulk pickup services. Vice Mayor, did you have something to add?
I just wanted to clarify, I didn't know that, so what you're saying is if you're an apartment dweller, you're in a condominium, well, I guess condo because you own it, so you could call. But would the property management folks, could they organize something? Could we help them organize something, saying they do a bulk pickup, 3 times a year, and that's part of our education program? I don't know, do they do those at apartments if they ask?
The resident who brought this to my attention said that they had been working with their apartment complex and they couldn't make it happen.
Okay.
I live in a condo facility, and there's owned by one owner, and we have a property management company. And I tried to get a bulk pickup, and it was a hassle, and they still didn't do it. So I found another way to get rid of my bulk pickup. So I know that if we're experiencing it, and I know how to navigate the system, we have folks in apartment complexes who are really struggling to get rid of, old furniture or what have you.
Right.
I think if we can, Mr. Ellis, did you want to speak to that?
Oh, I'd love to. Curiously, I have a lot of experience with bulk trash pickup over the years. And it is an interesting problem. I've worked in communities where we had extraordinarily high dumping fees, and we had as you might not be surprised, a high dumping problem, illegal dumping problem. And my last community that I came from, we had monthly bulk trash pickup curbside, very expensive and very popular. And people loved the convenience of it because everybody knew the first Monday of the month, you just put out as much junk as you want on your curb and it just magically disappears. So certainly that is something that we can look at. I think based on the feedback, Mayor, that I've heard from the council tonight, the PSAs, the resident reward, and the data tracking, I think we were unanimous on those. On the bulk trash pickup, it sounds like we've got a few different thoughts on this. If it's okay with the council, we could prepare maybe a few different models for what that could look like, whether that's a drive-through biannually, whether it's set dates for the 3 rather than being a call-in only. And we could probably let you know what those costs are, but we'd probably need a little bit more time to sort of sort that out. But we could bring that back to you for further discussion. And I think, if I
You
counted
summarized
right,
it quite well.
the-
I wasn't necessarily done, but
oh, I'm sorry.
No, I wanted to hear your conversation on that, but I didn't want that to be the wrap up because I still have thoughts on other items. But I agree with that, and I want to see this come back with some options for expanding bulk pickup services. Do my colleagues agree on that? Yeah.
Could I add one more comment?
Yeah.
So we got to keep in mind too that this isn't necessarily just residents that are dumping stuff. If you go to Home Depot, you'll see some big pickup trucks with plywood all the way up the side that says, "We pick up all your trash." Well, they do for a cost, and to save the dumping fees, they dump it on one of our areas. It's like back in the hazmat days, where the hazmat company would come in and pick up what we picked up off the street, and then they're responsible for taking it to a legitimate dump site. But that costs a lot of money, so we end up going on it somewhere else. So that didn't happen a lot, but it's a similar deal as the trash issue. So
Okay.
we got to also pay attention that we could be having businesses dumping this large quantities of trash.
Agreed. My hope is that if we provided a healthy outlet for folks to get rid of their bulk, then maybe those services aren't as necessary and maybe
Point.
it's disincentivized in some way. Vice Mayor, I see your finger on the button. Did you want to
Yeah,
add to
I
this?
just wanted to verify if we could, when we get here back, if we could ask, have Waste Management verify whether or not they will do bulk pickups at an apartment building.
And what it would take.
What it would,
Has to
yeah,
contact
what-
them.
And how they could help make that
How
happen.
they can help make that happen, yeah. If there's a way that we can also educate.
I agree with Councilmember Steiner. I think if we open it up to, and granted, when we do the hazardous waste pickups, I mean, we get people, in fact, I got some hate mail from someone that lived in a different community that they were mad that we missed one because of COVID last year. But they run really smooth. WRCOG runs those and they're awesome. But it's good to get those hazardous materials off the street. I do agree with the council member that yeah, we're going to invite all kinds of, and depending, I don't know, what the cost would be, and I don't see Waste Management giving us too big of a break on picking up, 20, 40-foot dumpster, or 40 or 20-yard dumpsters in the parking lot.
Well, I'd like to at least explore it and see where we can end up. Because also, with the point about folks not knowing that they have access to 3, I don't want the conversation to stop, even if, management companies can facilitate this. What they communicate to their renters, what they communicate to the folks living, is just, it depends on every facility. It depends on every. So a couple more questions. I don't know if there's a space here where, Mr. Ellis, are we still actively using utility bill inserts for PSAs?
Yep, we can.
Yeah, I'd love to.
That is something we still utilize from time to time as needed.
Okay, I'd like to see that. I'd also wonder if we could explore, a way to expand residential pickup services or bulk drop-off or a drive-through if you can prove that you live here and there's a limit on how many, and Maybe we can incentivize it in some way, again, to try and just provide a positive outlet for these to not end up on the street. Okay. And then the mobile trailer idea, I agree. I don't think that's a good idea. And then what else did I have? Oh, the data tracking. Is that dashboard, where's that data coming from? Is that SeeClickFix? Is that our own reports, or where are those numbers coming from?
It's SeeClickFix and NextGen, which are NextGen is our internal.
Awesome. Okay. Okay, so it seems like my colleagues have all agreed that we like education PSA, data tracking, and resident reward as is, but we want to see some more options for bulk pickup services. Okay, let's see, we've got a card on this item?
Mayor, yes, we do.
Okay.
Good evening. That was it's very interesting. I didn't know that you couldn't call unless you had an individual account. It seems ridiculous. I mean, it's not like you don't pay for the trash service. You know, if you live in an apartment or a mobile home park, you're paying. You know, you may not be an account holder, but it seems like that's something that the city could handle in terms of, talking to Waste Management. Just that's part of the deal when you're a trash company picking up trash. And so there should be no difference if you live at Corona La Linda, that if you need to get rid of a couch, you call and put it on there. You pay for trash service. So, apartments, condos, I mean, I had no idea that was the situation, but it seems like that's something the city could and should definitely address. Thank you very much.
All right, any further questions or comments from my colleagues?
Just one.
Yes, go ahead,
So-
Councilmember.
Chief, do you think this is a no on a full task force over on Rincon? Because I'll tell you what, some of the neighbors over there and I have, I've gotten a lot of earfuls over there. And I say that in jest, but I realize that PD's got a lot of important things to do. But you and I had a conversation about this. I'd love to see some nighttime patrols over there just once. I agree with Councilman Richards. Just once, I would love to see that somebody got caught dumping over there. And I'm all for putting their name, putting their face, putting their address on Facebook and everything.
I'm foreshadowing seeing a Dario Richin stakeout.
Well,
coming up
when I'm
here.
in my park ranger truck with my cute hat.
Look, you can know.
Let's
You
not
don't need
encourage it.
But
Let's
listen,
not
I see you
encourage
guys. I see you guys completely camoed up.
Chief,
Hiding in the
have we
bushes.
caught anybody dumping?
I don't know if we've caught anybody, and especially, I don't believe there's been any large dumping arrests made. The honest truth is that we're not in those areas. That's why it's happening, because we drive through them and then we drive right on by. So the areas that are, unless there was a truck on the side of the road that would draw our attention, our officers are well aware of the concerns and are increasing their patrols. But if somebody was driving through with a mattress, they're not going to stop when an officer is nearby. So it's not a difficult thing. As for the cameras, I think it's very difficult because, as Vice Mayor stated, if you put one camera up, it's not going to cover the entire area, and that means you would have to line an entire block with cameras to really gain, salvageable intelligence to solve a crime. And then otherwise, we'd spend countless hours reviewing records that may have blocked license plates. So I just don't think that's the ticket, although I love the technology. I think we would solve many more crimes with all this camera technology. I just don't know if that's the suggestion for catching the dumpers.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Ellis, did you want to jump in?
Mayor, I was just going to mention or suggest that Councilmember Daddario, if you'd like, we could spread the word that there's a free steak dinner on you for the officer that catches
there we
someone
go.
in red-handed dumping in the city.
Done.
So
It's done.
It's out now. They know. Yeah.
we will
Done.
spread the word. And
There we
Mayor,
go.
with that feedback, I think we have what we need to thank you very much.
Wonderful. Okay, Mr. Waxwell, thank you so much.
I think that Councilmember said a tomahawk from where?
I think he's going to grill it himself. I think
It really, if one of our fine officers catches somebody's dumping, dinner's on me.
There we
100%.
go. Wonderful. All right. Okay, moving on to legislative matters. There are none. Boards and commissions, reports from city council commissioners and staff for the Planning and Housing, there's none. Parks and Recreation Commission, there's none. And now let's move on to regional meetings. We have quite a few. So let's go to item 29. It was the Western Riverside County Regional Conservation Authority, the RCA Board meeting of May 3rd, 2021. We have an update from Councilmember Daddario.
Unfortunately, this is the off month, so there will be no species of the month. But at RCA, we were able to procure 92 acres across 3 properties in Marietta Valley for the, sorry?
Sorry, we're just really bummed that there's no.
Do you have no idea how
I'm
bummed
just
I am?
heckling you. And I was like, just make one up. Come on, Tony. It's
So 3 properties, 92 acres for the Conservation Authority. One of the good things that they're doing, they gave us a draft of some public outreach on their plan. They have really gone through and updated and highlighted their website. They will be pushing out a bunch of good content for folks that are curious about conservation, curious about the species of animals and flora that we have in the conservation area. And they are going to be adding to their website some high production value species of the month club, where they will not only show you pictures of stills, but they actually have video of some of these animals. I'm very excited about that. I saw a preview of it, and there's some pretty cool animals. So I will have to make sure I clip some of those videos and provide that in my presentation for the next time that we have Species of the Month Club. And then more conversation on their rough step compliance, which, if you recall from last month, talks about the different areas of conservation within individual cities. So if you go to their website and whatever city you live in, you can find out what type of conservation is going on in your community. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we're going to have an Riverside Transit Agency Board meeting from April 22nd. Update from Councilmember Steiner.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. This Sunday, May 9th, RTA will continue to operate a reduced schedule due to the coronavirus pandemic and will make route and schedule changes to improve reliability. Affected routes in the city of Corona include Route 1, 205, and 206. All the changes are considered temporary and will be considered for reinstatement as funding and ridership rebound from the pandemic. Details are available inside onboard brochures and in the ride guide available on the website. A new mobility hub in downtown Riverside moved one step closer to opening. The Riverside Transit Agency's Board of Directors approved a plan to purchase from the city of Riverside a half-acre parcel off Vine Street that would essentially complete the footprint needed for the future transit center. The acquisition of property will enable RTA to build the project on approximately 4.7 acres. Like the Corona Transit Center there on Graham, the Vine Street Mobility Hub is expected to play a significant role in RTA's operations, offering customers access to a variety of RTA routes, as well as connections with other transit providers, including Omnitrans buses and Metrolink trains. Construction is scheduled to begin January 2022. On Memorial Day, Monday, May 31st, RTA buses will not operate, and the Customer Information Center and administrative offices will be closed. Regular services resume on June 1st. And to our residents, you have some ideas about transit in your community, then visit a Transportation Now meeting. Members of this grassroots group, ranging from elected officials to community activists to everyday transit users, are committed not only to addressing regional transportation issues, but meeting the needs of other individual communities. 6 chapters are located throughout the county. The Corona Norco chapter, which I happen to chair, meets monthly via Zoom. For now, we'll be back in the office soon, I think, when we have our meetings. But it's on the second Thursday of every month at 9 a.m., and you can visit the riversideTransit.com to learn more about the TNOW group and future meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Going now to the Riverside County Transportation Commission, RCTC, ad hoc committee meeting of April 26th, and we have Vice Mayor Speak providing that update.
Thank you, Mayor. On this meeting, it was primarily to start the process of what's called I-15 Smart Freeway Pilot Project. And this is a project in the city of Temecula on the 15 that will basically use a technology that's been used in Australia for the last few years to move traffic along. And there's lots of different things. One is measuring the amount of cars that come onto the freeway. It can do anything from lowering the miles per hour, basically and they've seen in cities in Brisbane and in Perth, they saw massive increases in the throughput of traffic on those lanes. So I asked our Mr. Ellis and Mr. Campu to keep an eye and kind of see how they're doing this. One of the questions I asked was to make sure that they were also looking at the way that traffic moves on surface streets adjacent to the 15. And frankly, if this goes well, there's a few other places in the county that they would like to roll this technology out, and one being in Corona. But I think Marina Valley and the 16, 215 will probably come next. But this process will last about 18 months. And they're basically going to try it out and see if it works. The price tag isn't that much. I think most of it's being reimbursed by the federal government. But they're very hopeful. They're working with the city of Temecula and very hopeful it's going to work out well. Let's see. And that's it for that one.
All right, the next one's also yours, a RCTC Western Programs meeting of April 26th.
Okay, just a couple things, and then I'll have a quick PowerPoint. Let's see. So first we
Did you
talked
see
about
everyone's eyes pop up when you said you had a PowerPoint?
PowerPoint.
You have a lot to share. Go ahead, Count.
I
Go ahead,
do.
Vice Mayor.
Look, traffic is important.
It's a big deal.
And this PowerPoint's on something that's very important.
No, we're happy to see it.
Okay. I'm not going to talk about Ethanac because obviously you don't care. But I will say that is talking about specialized transit pilots, there's going to be, the RCTC funded about $8 million worth of projects for the specialized transit. And I'm going to go to my PowerPoint, which is on the newest RCTC project, which is the 1591 connector. Because there are going to be some impacts from this, and I wanted people to kind of learn about it a little bit. This is a presentation that Dave Thomas gave that committee. Hopefully this works. They said I didn't have to point it anywhere. Point it there? Oh, there we go. Okay, I went too fast. All right, got it. Okay, so a little overview of the project. This is basically a toll lane connector between the eastbound 91 to the northbound 15. And it's going to widen the bottleneck that we have from the 15 to, from the southbound 15 to the westbound 91. And I think the most positive thing, I think, for most folks that are coming through Corona is the extension of the eastbound express lane almost all the way to Promenade. Right now, it kind of just ends at the 15, and also an additional half mile of general purpose lane. So it's actually going to keep it from, we have those massive lane drops that we have on the 91. This should, extend, it going a little better. We awarded, it's a $270 million project, joint venture between Myers-Raidosh doing the design build, and 2,300 jobs will be created over the couple of years this project is going to be going on. Okay. So the project benefits, the reduced traffic congestion. Most people, when I tell them there's going to be a new toll lane connector, people aren't excited about it because they feel they're going to have to pay to use it. However, the biggest contribution for the residents of Corona that actually get on the 91, it's going to take about 2,300 cars an hour off of the main line. Folks that want to, coming from north of the 91 and 15, coming from Norco and Eastvale that want to travel westbound on the 91, instead of having to sit through the lanes and then transition to the toll lanes, they can actually take this toll lane connector. So it should actually make the travel through Corona a little bit better. There's going to be some temporary traffic shifts. The biggest thing, the work zone, the landing spot where the actual connector comes down on the 15 north of the 91, they're going to shift traffic over. Will be no lane reductions, so it'll just be a little bit of a weird jog over. And I think folks are basically used to Weird right now with this area, because it's been under construction for a few years. So that shift will take place between fall 2021 and 2023. I think I got the right spot here. Maybe. There we go. There will be some directional closures, just kind of like we've seen on the 15. Westbound 91, early 2022, there'll be some, just as they did on the, when they built the connector across, they're going to install false work on the westbound 91 and install false work on the southbound 15, and then, they'll remove it. So it's usually just an overnight closure. Sorry, weekend closure. They're going to be reconfiguring the eastbound lane in the third stage, which is basically the middle of next year, which will basically reduce the lane addition that happens at Lincoln. Right now, that lane that comes off at Lincoln, it drops and then kind of makes you go to get off on Main Street. They're going to take that lane is now going to go completely through and connect with the 15 connector. So it'll provide a little bit more room. They'll be a little bit constricted through Lincoln, but then it'll widen out at Main Street. And that's only going to be for about 6 months. Traffic management will handle this before. Public outreach, they're going to be doing lots of public outreach of when they have closures and traffic handling. The same was with the 91. There will not be 2 consecutive lanes, on-ramps or off-ramps closed, and CHP will be providing support. If you'd like to get texts or subscribe to when there's closures, I post on my Facebook page, but RCTC is much better at it. And if you go to the rctc.org and go to 1591 connector, they will automatically send you emails every week and telling you what the closures are. And that's it. Thank you.
I know we give you a hard time, but we really do appreciate this.
Yeah, no worries.
Well, some of us appreciate it. I appreciate it. Okay, going on to.
I love you, Wes.
So the two of us do. Mr. Derleth, do you have any comments tonight?
No comments or PowerPoint.
Okay, no comments or PowerPoints.
I'll be
Mr.
bringing
Ellis, do you
PowerPoints
have
to
any
every
comments or
every
PowerPoints
meeting
tonight?
from now on.
No. All right, moving on to my colleagues. Councilmember Richens, do you have any comments or PowerPoints tonight?
Just PowerPoints. No. I would like to thank the Blue Star Mothers for showing up tonight. They are awesome. I sent Dr. Turner an email a while back hoping that they can be moved to the front of the parade this year. And I would like to say it publicly here that hopefully that'll happen. I think they're the highlight of the parade, so why not put them in the front? And then I'd like to thank the Corona Fire Department for protecting houses on Bell Street over the last 2 days. The houses that caught on fire, it's truly sad, but to watch firefighters show up in mass and protect the houses to the sides, I thought one of them was going to be a goner for sure, and those dudes, they stepped up and played a good game, so kudos to them. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Steiner, do you have any comments tonight?
Yes, I have a few comments. We had a productive and well-attended community meeting on April 24th with the residents from the Sierra Bella community and also other citizens from District 4. I want to thank Police Chief Bob Newman, Lieutenant Jim Ock, Sergeant Jeff Glenn from the Flex team, Officer Mark Tavares from the Hope team, Vice Mayor Speak, Planning Commissioner Karen Alexander, Parks and Rec Commissioner Elizabeth McCreary, 2nd District County Supervisor Karen Spiegel, and all the residents who attended and engaged in some just really great conversation. I want to give a shout out to DWP, specifically to Richard Betancourt, Chris Jardine, Juan Guzman, Mike Soto, and Marcus DeVoe for the rapid response to a water leak in front of my home last week. I was impressed with the crews, professionalism, and customer service. And Tom Moody, thank you as well. Please pass on my appreciation to the guys. Thanks again to Lieutenant Ock, the Hope team, and Moses Cortez and his crew for abating the homeless encampment in the Palisades Ravine last week and cleaning up all the trash. Chief Young, good job keeping those 2 fires from spreading to residents around it. Let's see, the city hosted a Trails Master Plan community workshop at the library last Thursday evening. I want to thank all the 40 or so citizens who attended and all the staff who participated. That really was, the citizens, the trail enthusiasts were the catalysts to getting us where we're at now in regards to our trail master plan and also the future of our trail. So big kudos to all those citizens for making this happen. And finally, it's Municipal Clerks Week, and I want to acknowledge our city clerk, Sylvia Edwards, and her team, Kristen Duarte, Allison Bernstein, Taylor York, Denise Fuller Alonso, Chelsea Chavira, and Ruby Vargas. We love you, and we thank you for all your hard work.
Ditto.
Completes my comments.
Councilmember Daddario?
Yep, 2 weeks, last weekend? Last weekend, I had the honor of walking the Auburndale community to do some outreach to that community regarding the Auburndale Community Center / park. It was not a good idea for myself to be paired with Dr. Turner. We are a couple of chatty Cathys, and we probably didn't hit as many houses as some of the other teams did. But thank you for all that attended, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty of good feedback for that. June 5th, I will be hosting a town hall, and that will be at the Joe Dominguez American Legion Post. There will be representatives from the Hope Team, PD, both Planning and Parks Commissioner in District 2, as well as myself. Dr. Turner will be there, or as I like to say, the queen of all things cool. So we are very excited about that. There will be no PowerPoints. It will be questions only.
You're never going to live that down.
And I also want to point out that on May 14th, the Joe Dominguez Post is doing a ribbon cutting ceremony for their new canteen. It is their 74th anniversary. Very excited about that. I'll be there as well as a lot of other folks in the community. And that's it.
Thank you, Councilmember. Vice Mayor Speak?
Thank you. Let's see, on April 22nd, the Friends of the Corona Public Library held a virtual trivia night, and I was invited by Trustee Shirley Tyler Hayes and Trustee Connie Newen. Mayor Casillas and I were also on this team with President of the Friends Kathy Wright and Marta Cortez. We had a dynamic team, and we were in second place after about halfway through and pulled ahead and ended up winning. I was very proud. The mayor pulled out a couple of really great trivia stuff. It was fantastic. It was a real true team effort. I did have to recuse myself because I had provided the questions for the history portion, but I was very proud that my team actually got all the history things correct. So
Yeah, I do listen to you.
it was good. It was good. I might have blinked a few times, but other than that, it was a great team effort. On April 23rd, I attended Riverside County Water Task Force event presented by MWD and Western Municipal Water District, kind of presenting on water and how it gets here, and it was a very good meeting, very good. But I'll have a PowerPoint in the next meeting. On April 29th, along with Mayor Casillas and Councilmember Steiner, the Trails Master Plan meeting was great. Seeing a fantastic group of folks out there, a lot of people that I've seen from the beginning, and Councilmember Steiner is correct. I mean, this really was a resident-driven, actually activist-driven group, and I just can't wait to see where it's going to go. And Dr. Turner and her group did a fantastic job. Looking forward to really hitting the gas on that. This Saturday, there are lots of fun things to do, including to give back to the community. There's going to be an El Cerrito cleanup starting at 9 a.m. at the El Cerrito Park, organized by Supervisor Spiegel. Just show up, they'll give you everything you need, kind of just like we've done. The city also helped out a little bit with providing some logistics. They're going to clean up all along Temescal Canyon, so that kind of benefits all of us and the folks that drive on that road. So if you want to be there, it goes, I think, 9 to 11. Vegan Depot will be at City Park on Saturday, and there's also going to be a brand-new gift market at the Dunkin' Donuts at the corner of Rimpaw and Ontario. I think that starts at 11. I, too, will be at Joe Dominguez Hall post 742, very excited and a little bit sad they are dedicating the cantina, it's their 74th anniversary, dedicating the cantina to Master Sergeant Larry Hernandez. He passed away from COVID this past year, and he's a great guy. He couldn't pick a better representative, former commander of the post. I'll be there, and I'll looking forward to seeing how they honor him. I know they're going to do a great job. Let's see, and last but not least, it's to all the mothers out there on Sunday. It's Mother's Day, and I wanted to say a happy Mother's Day to my mom, Rose. Even though she lives in Norco, I still wish her Mother's Day, so it's okay. Thanks.
Still your mom, even though she lives in Norco. Well, thank you, gentlemen. You've covered just about everything. I just have 2 items to add. One is we are venturing into the night market realm, and so we're looking for some fabulous and unique vendors. So the interest form is out there. Fill it out, spread the word, and hopefully we have a great inaugural night market this year. And we are exploring and moving down the path of our 4th of July parade, and there are signups available if you'd like to join the parade. So please go on our website, on our Facebook page, find the link, and sign up if you will join us for the 4th of July, why can't I say July? 4th of July parade. And that's it from me. Let's see. The following are upcoming meetings. We have Committee of the Whole on Wednesday, May 12th at 3:30. We have the Budget Workshop on Wednesday, May 18th at 3:30. And we have the City Council meeting on Wednesday, May 19th at 6:30. Hope to see you at those. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.